Up the meeting. Um, Thank you, everybody, for attending. Today is Wednesday, June 1st, and I would like to call the West Hartford Public Safety Committee to order, and the time is 6:30. And before we jump into the agenda, there's a lot that has happened since our last meeting, unfortunately, in terms of the tragic events in our country. And so I really would just like to take a moment um, to recognize and to stand with the number of people, uh, parents, children, our public safety brothers and sisters, our first responders, as we yet again endure several tragedies since this last time that we met. Um, We've had the event in Buffalo, New York, with the Tops grocery store. We've had the event in Uvalde, Texas, with the Robb Elementary School students and teachers. And of course, the ongoing war in Ukraine. So let's just take a moment um, of silence, please. Thank you. That may have appeared to be a long pause, but um, I just can't get any of the images out of my mind in terms of what any number of those family members, individuals, residents have endured, whether it's Texas, whether it's New York, or whether it's in Ukraine. I know many of us marched in the parade on Monday, and I know we continue to echo that our freedom isn't free because we know that people have given their lives in order for us to enjoy many of the freedoms that some of us all too often take for granted each and every day. And sometimes, most of the times, all of the time now, that we really do have to embrace the small things in life and really hold on to what's valuable, because in a moment's notice, we don't know what can face us in the next hour or in the next day. So I personally thank all of you that are around the virtual table for everything that you do each and every day, especially to our public safety team. Um, the work that you do is valuable, and we all know that, but especially during times that we have witnessed in the news, and many of you in your everyday work, when you either leave your office or leave your vehicle or leave your home, you don't know what it is that you're going to experience and embrace. And that's why I commend you for the ongoing training that you constantly do in all types of weather. And I say that because as we marched on Monday, it was so hot, and and you all just stood so professionally and beautifully while you marched in the parade. And so I really want to thank you for everything that you do and that you bring to the table each and every day. So I just want to recognize folks around the virtual table before we jump into the agenda. Chief Riddick, Chief Priest, Assistant Chief Rob Riccabon, Assistant Chief Lawrence Terra, Assistant Fire Chief Hugh O'Callahan, Fire Marshal Robert Grimaldi, our Emergency Manager Director Robert McHugh, and and also Counselor Cortez, Town Manager Rick Ledwith, and we have some new faces that's joining us tonight, which is from our Civilian Police Review Board. I recognize our board chair, Olinda Morales, and the other ladies, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourselves to the committee. Let's see. Anybody can start or jump in.
I'm Veronica Badiola.
Nice to meet you, Veronica.
Same here, Carol.
Good evening. I'm Kathleen Hindman, and we have a gentleman on the board as well.
Nice to meet you, Ms. Hindman. And sir, you're on mute, so we're not able to hear you.
I apologize. Matt Horowitz.
Nice to meet you, Mr. Horowitz, and welcome.
Robin Kaler.
Nice to meet you, Ms. Kaler, and welcome. All right, very well. All right, so the first order of business is the approval of the minutes of our May 4th meeting. And what I would like to motion, if you will, is that the minutes be accepted with the necessary corrections.
I second.
Thank you. All in favor, we can say aye. And the next item on the agenda would be the Civilian Police Review Board annual report. And so what I'll do is turn it over to Mr. Town Manager Rick Ledwith, and then I'm sure you will then ask Chief Riddick to lead us off.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Rick Ledwith, Acting Town Manager. As you said, the first topic on tonight's agenda is a review of the first annual report of the West Hartford Civilian Police Review Board. You'll recall that this board was established through council action in February of 2021, with an official effective date of July 1st of 2021. The board is comprised of 7 members and 3 alternates who are appointed by the town council with the purpose of promoting public confidence in the professionalism and accountability of the West Hartford Police Department through the unbiased review of the investigation of complaints filed against any West Hartford police officer, to provide a timely and fair and objective review of complaints and the way complaints are investigated, and to promote positive interactions and maintain trust between the community and the police. The board is also required to provide the council with an annual report with recommendations, and this, as I said, is their first report. Through you, Madam Chair, I see as you introduced, and we met several of the members of the board this evening on the call. I would ask if one of them, I think Olinda Morales, the chair, was prepared to make a few comments about the report, if I'm not mistaken. And through you, Madam Chair, I'll turn it over to Olinda.
Thank you, Mr. Ledwith. Madam Chair.
Good evening, everyone. I am the chair of the Civilian Police Review Board, and I would like to thank everybody in the Public Safety Committee and to the Acting Town Manager Ledwith for allowing us to present our first report. As we were sworn in last year on June 1st, exactly a year ago. And I must say that for me personally, it has been a great experience. The board is very active and people are very involved. Everyone is very involved in the board. We have 7 members and 3 alternates, and everyone, including the alternates, participate in every meeting, and they participated in drafting the report that is before you today. We all worked on it, so that's great. The report has 5 different sections. It has a summary at the beginning. It's a very succinct report. I was very pleased. I think it tells you our story, our 1-year story of what we've been doing and how we are composed, how we were created, how many cases we have reviewed. There are abstracts of the cases that we reviewed in the last year. And it also includes a description of the training that we participated in at the beginning of the creation of the board. So the membership of the board is very diverse. and it does represent the residents of the town. We have women and men. We have people from different political parties. We have people that are diverse professionally, ethnically, and also racially. So I do believe that the composition of the board is a great representation of the town. So in the at the beginning of our board meetings, we were trained. The former town manager gave us a presentation about the organization of the town and the rule of the town. Our wise and very helpful town council, general counsel comes to every meeting, and she educated us in FOIA, the ethics rule that apply to the municipality. And then finally, the police chief, deputy police Tara, also gave us a lot of training about how the police department is organized. We went to the police building and looked around. Everybody welcomed us. I have to say that I'm quite impressed by the quality of the investigative report that we see every time that we review them. They're very thorough, very well investigated. So I'm pleased about that. Also, their training was extensive with respect to the policies and procedures that they have at the police department. So we have done 5 reviews of the reports. So far, we have upheld every one of them. Yeah, 4 of the reports had to do with complaints regarding sworn personnel, and 1 report was about a civilian employee of the police department. Finally, I would like to comment that the recommendations that we provided, there are 5 recommendations, but they are based on our experience with the training that we have received and with the review that we have conducted. Anyway, so my colleagues are here, and I'm here in case that you have any additional questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Morales. Any questions, Councilor Cortez?
I just want to make a comment and say it was an honor to go through this training with the civilian review board with most of the members here. And like I said, the police department did a excellent job. AC Tara and the chief, as far as giving us a tour and making us feel part of the team. It says a lot about our town. And like I said, it was great. It's great to see the familiar faces online right now, a year later.
Thank you, Councilor Cortez. And thank you to the entire board, one, for volunteering to be part of this civilian review board. I remember when we were in the very beginning stages of trying to put this together and the process and steps. So I'm happy and pleased to see the faces that are around the virtual table, and happy to hear about all of the things that went into putting this first report for our viewing. I do have a few questions for the members, and one question is, and this goes to everybody, what were 3 key takeaways for each of you in terms of a year ago and from today to today?
Does any one of my colleagues want to take that question?
Well, I guess I could start and indicate that among the takeaways I had was the degree of professionalism of our police department, the cooperation that we received, the thoroughness of the reports that we received, much as Olinda indicated. So certainly that was my overwhelming impression as well as, again, echoing what Olinda said, the degree to which our group seems to work very well together.
Thank you.
I'll speak. This is Robin Kaler. I'll say that it's very clear that the town and the police department has embraced the presence of this committee, and it feels good to feel like, you know, they you know, are have embraced the our mission, have participated in our meetings in terms of if we have follow-up questions or information requests, they've provided that information quickly, and we feel we have the full cooperation of the department. So
Thank you, Mrs. Keller.
I would like to add that our experience writing with police officers, at least for me, was one of the most revealing in regards to how professional our officers are. And he was so welcoming and so grateful for our board. Actually, he was very open to say that. And I really, that impressed me. And the way that he conducted himself the whole time that I was with him, it was impressive.
Thank you, Mrs. Badiola.
I'll weigh in as well. I would say that when we were drafting this report, and we met a few times in the drafting of it and editing of it, I went back to the original state statute that brought us into existence. And I think we have, I think we did a lot of work in the last 6+ months of reviewing complaints made to the department. But I think moving forward, we have a lot more that we can tackle, and I look forward to the work.
I would also like to add that in light of the Madam Chair's words regarding the latest tragics, not only nationally but internationally, I feel that we should be even more committed now to working with the town and the police department, as we have been doing it this year, to continue having a communication with the police department, and maybe to serve as a bridge to our community, so that we can work in a civil manner, protecting our citizens, and also for feeling safe here in the town in every sense, especially in our relationship with the police department, and creating more trust and more communication.
Thank you, Mrs. Morales. My next question are challenges. Do you feel that you experienced any challenges along the way from the start when you arrived on the board to the training that you received, working as a team, and right up to the point where you actually completed the report or review and presentation?
Well, it was a learning experience, right? At the beginning, we didn't know anything. This is a brand new board. It was where there were expectations that we would work together and that we would learn together. And I don't think anything was a challenge in the sense that it was difficult. I think we have learned a lot during this year. I think we even learned how to interpret the applicable ordinance more clearly than we were before. But we learned that by practicing it. But I don't think it has been a challenge in the negative way, because as I said, I think the council did a great job selecting the membership, and also are working with the town council, the general counsel's office, as well as with the police department, has been very smooth. Veronica, I think that you were wanted to add something.
Along those lines, yes, Olinda, more than a challenge has been that we had to work on uncharted territory. This is brand new, and
Yes.
that's what I thought it was excited as well. You know, so it's not more than a challenge. I see it as a positive challenge, just like Olinda said, because we're starting something new that is very positive for our town.
Mhm. Thank you. Anybody else would like to weigh in on what they experienced coming into the group?
If I could, Madam Chair.
Absolutely, Chief.
Chief Riddick speaking. I want to commend Chairperson Morales, Attorney Morales. You know, she comes and the board, they're all smiling and they're nice, but they ask some really tough questions. So I appreciate the kind words. We were ready. We weren't really sure what to expect from the PD and our professional standards division under the guidance of Lieutenant Maffo. You know, we were very confident in our reports and we weren't trying to hide anything. And I think the transparency came across in the reports. But it did point out some things. You know, it's nice to have a different set of eyes because sometimes you get a little myopic because you're in a certain world and you miss a thing or two, or what's obvious to you is not obvious to somebody else. Specifically, you know, one suggestion that was brought up, a recommendation that I agree with, is if there's a relationship between officers, like a married couple or a dating couple, to let that be known. Now we're reading these reports, we know the relationships, and we know who's married, so we don't really see a need to point that out. But when you have outside folks reviewing this, it's important. So that was a really good point. They did their homework each and every time. My concern was, okay, how serious will this be taken? Will there be people who are just looking to for some spotlight, some politics? But you know, by and large, they did their homework. They read reports thoroughly. How do I know? By the questions that were asked. So I commend them for taking this serious, for doing their due diligence, and having respect for the process. So thank you all. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Riddick. Okay. All right. Anything else? Okay. Well, again, thank you for your thank you for volunteering and really stepping up to participate in this process. I always say that, you know, we have the brightest and best here in town, and it's evident of when we ask for volunteers, we have more than enough people show up. And as Chief Riddick just said, you know, you step up and you come prepared and you're willing to roll up your sleeves and jump in and do the hard work. So again, thank you. And I think of you as ambassadors and an extension, and now can really tell the true story of what our public safety team members endure each and every day. And the more that we do this, we begin to change the narrative and the outcome, and things will change and things will look different, but it usually starts with baby steps, and gradually we then improve along the way. So again, thank you all. All right. So moving to the next agenda item is communications. Mr. Ledwith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Rick Ledwith, Acting Town Manager. We have nothing under communications for this evening.
Okay. And then up is staff reports, and up first is the fire department. And so I will turn it over to Chief Priest to kick it off with his team.
Outstanding. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the Civilian Police Board, Town Manager Ledwith, everyone. I think I'd be remiss if I didn't start some of my comments. Chief Riddick and I are known for our friendly banter back and forth, but we get serious from time to time. And I'd just like to commend his leadership and the men and women of the police department and how they've interacted with the Civilian Police Review Board. I actually had a chance to peruse it myself briefly. You know, fire department's not in a position to have that type of oversight, but I think the real compliments that go to the police department is when you have outside independent review of it and they sustain the majority of the findings. They didn't overturn any of them. And I think that speaks to the professionalism and dedication of Chief Riddick's staff and especially his professional standards unit. So Chief, my compliments to you on this, and my thanks to Chairwoman Morales on the work that you've done. So I'll move over to fire department business. I promise to be brief to allow Chief Riddick some time as well, but I'd just like to highlight some things out of my report. The first is we received some data back from what's called the CARES program. It's the Cardiac Arrest Registry to Enhance Survival. That looks at data from cardiac arrests, and what we've been advised is that our cardiac arrest survival rate is 16.4%, and that's in comparison to a national average of 9% and a Connecticut average of 8%. So I think that speaks some volumes to the work that's being done out on the street, and I would also evidence that that is a team effort involving all of our responders, both police, our firefighter EMTs, the people on the fire trucks, in addition to our paramedics. So that's a really nice data point to be able to represent. So my congratulations to the team for that data. I only have it as a slight bullet on there about a Conard career day at Conard, but I'd love to tell you that it was an outstanding success. I was privy to being out there today. I'd like to offer my congratulations and thanks to firefighter paramedic Matt Schraber, who organized it in conjunction with Mary Ann Taft and Brian Cohen from the school system. It was really spectacular to see them out engaging with the kids. They did demonstrations of the fire trucks. They used hose lines. There was a medic station. They went over dorm safety, which is critically important to kids who are getting ready to go off to college. Provided some education to our fire marshals, and then they also gave them an opportunity to use fire extinguishers. I really would love to thank Mary Ann Taft and Brian Cohen for their support of this. It was a good start. This is the first time we've done it in a long time, and we really saw a high level of engagement in the staff. And I really gauged the success based on kind of a conversation that I had with Brian Cohen, and he said to me, when I kind of remarked, wow, look at all these different kids from all the different backgrounds, engaging us, using hoses, talking to people. I guess I was a little surprised that high school students were that engaged. And he actually said to me, he goes, yeah, not only are they engaged, but the ones that are engaging are the ones that I would not have guessed when you see them walk down the hallway. So I really think that's really good connection we have, and I would call it highly successful. So I'll conclude my report with congratulations to firefighter Robert Doughton on his graduation from the academy. We've also welcomed 2 new staff members, Esteban Enriquez, who's coming on board as a firefighter paramedic, will be attending the academy shortly, and we have onboarded Tracy Fiedler as a new part-time staff assistant. And I guess I did have one other thing, which is it was great to see the CERT team members out on the Memorial Day parade. It was well organized, and I'd like to offer my thanks to them individually and to Bob and his team for the OEM success. And with that, that concludes my report. I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have of me.
Thank you, Chief Priest. Are there any questions for Chief Priest? Counselor Cortez?
I just want to acknowledge there was two firefighters at the job fair. They did an excellent job. I was able to go at the job fair at Elmwood Community Center and make my rounds to the table, ask questions, and extremely professional. We did have a little banter back and forth just with the firefighter and being in blue, but they did an outstanding job. So I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you, Counselor Cortez. And Chief Priest, I would just like to echo, just being a former Conard parent, that I'm happy to hear that the fair went really well and many students were interested. And I know Mr. Cohen well. He's had all 3 of my daughters. So I'm happy to hear that students that were unlikely or he didn't expect to be enthused were very enthused. And I'm also happy to hear that education around how to use a fire extinguisher was provided, because I often think about that, and a number of times something is there, but somebody doesn't know how to use it. And because of that, something that could have been prevented often goes unprevented. So thank you to you and your team for doing that and educating our young people, especially as they either go off to college or go out on their own. A number of times, just because they're 18 or 21 and they think they're adult, a lot of time when they're faced with adult types of things, they're ill-equipped to handle that. So again, thank you to you and your team for educating them and introducing them to things that perhaps they wouldn't have received at all. Again, thanks, Chief Priest. All right, moving on to our police department update. So I'm going to turn it over to Chief Riddick and his team. So I'll ask you to kick it off.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Thank you again for this opportunity. Councilor Cortez, did you see any police officers there? Because if not, someone's in trouble. We were supposed to have 2 officers there.
They were there. They were doing their thing, you know,
Okay.
as well. Great job, also.
Okay. All right. AC Riccobon, they sent you a lifeline. Anyways, that being said, we previously sent out our community action plan, which was updated. So I hope you had an opportunity to peruse that. Just a couple of things I'd like to highlight. Our College Academy will be starting June 20th. And that's an initiative that was started by Assistant Chief Riccobon way back when he was a patrol officer. It's an opportunity for college students to come for a several-week program and learn about the operations of the police department and get college credits for their school, for their education. So it's a really good initiative. Thank you, Assistant Chief Riccobon, for starting that several years ago and for us to be able to continue to go forward with that. Secondly, today we had representatives from Axon. If you recall, we have the Axon body cam system. Our body cams have been distributed throughout the police department. Today's installation dealt with the dash cams. As a matter of reference and just a little tickler for reminder, West Hartford has had dash cams in the vehicles since about 2014 or so. So now, well predating the law, now with the new system and the upgrades, we were taking out the old systems and putting in the new system with Axon. So that's starting today, and then hopefully we get all the new cameras in the cars done in a few short days. So kudos with that. I'd also like to reference a little update on our social worker. Again, we hired Samantha Ennis back in September, utilizing a salary from the police department to assist with social services. In the month of May, she had 18 referrals. She was called on scene 4 times to work with mobile crisis. She also helped with elderly protective services on a call. She assisted with 3 evictions in the month and 4 referrals to DCF. So working with that collaboration with Samantha, we now have her embedded in the police department 3 days out of the week. She's in our CAD RMS, record management system. She has a police radio, a cell phone. So sometimes she can self-dispatch. She has a call sign, which I believe is 89. So she's called on, she responds to the scenes. And if by chance we might forget, she has a radio when she's working that she can notify dispatch that she'd be responding to these calls. So again, kudos to the police department and social services in the town for making this happen. She's been a wonderful addition. As we know, 2 nights ago, we had a shooting that occurred on Warren Terrace. Very disturbing, very troubling. I can't get, it's an ongoing investigation, so I can't get into deep details, but it does suffice to say it was brazen. It happened about 10:30 in the evening. There were folks that were out having a good time, having a cookout, and another group of people came up and started shooting at that group from behind some cover and fencing. The shooting occurred. They really couldn't even see who they were shooting at. So that tells you a whole lot regarding the mentality. We recovered over 20 casings of various calibers. And again, I can't get too much more detail than that. We are working with the Hartford Police Department, the FBI Task Force, the Greater Hartford Auto Theft Task Force, and our regional violent crime task force, which we have personnel embedded in. Our detective bureau and our West Hartford Community Support Unit are all working together to focus on this incident and follow up on leads and hopefully secure arrest. One person was struck in the head. Fortunately, it was non-life threatening, a minor wound, and that person is being very uncooperative with us. So that being said, we'll keep plugging away. We all came in, we devoted the proper resources, and we're also working with the state's attorney's office too. Again, I can't get too much more detail than that, but just let you know we are working diligently. And I'll close, and there's many more things I can talk about on the police side, but in light of the school shooting that occurred in Uvalde, Texas, we've, the town manager's office has been inundated with calls and emails. The mayor and I believe several council members have been, receiving emails and concerns. Coming from another district, coming from Waterbury, believe it or not, my anniversary was Sunday for 4 years, so I've started my 5th year, and I still made it. And Waterbury did a lot of good things, but West Hartford's doing good things and great things too. A lot of the suggestions that you're hearing on various news agencies and formats are already in place here and have been in place for quite some time. Kudos to the previous police leadership, town leadership, school leadership for the policies, the procedures, and the training that was put in place because that helps keeps our schools safe. Does that mean it's 100%? It does not. There's a lot of great things that we're doing. And as a reminder to folks, per state statute, the schools are required to go through different crisis trainings, fire drills. So with the crisis training, at least 3 of those a year, and most of the time those 3 will be lockdown drills or active shooter type scenarios or training. Many of you may recall, back in just prior to COVID, we did a full-scale operation active shooter situation in conjunction with the FD at KO. So, excuse me, Kingswood, what was that school? Oh my gosh.
King
Philip, thank you. Yeah, King Philip, thank you. At King Philip, we had role players, fake blood, everything. So this is why we do these things, and sometimes it appears to be shocking, and it's not pleasant to see, but you have to do that. Every time you interview people, if you're watching the news afterwards, without fail, you always hear, "I can't believe it happened here. It is so quiet here. We all know each other." Well, that's any town / anywhere USA, including West Hartford. We would hate for something like that to happen here, and it's my prayer that it never, ever, that we can train, and never have it happen. That's our goal. Be prepared, just like you have insurance on your car and your house. You hope nothing happens, but you pay that premium every month just in case. That's what our training is all about, just in case. There are, how much can I get into detail? There are mechanical procedures and in place that if an individual were to attempt to get into a school, and if people are paying attention, there's mechanisms in place to stop that individual. As far as access, the West Hartford Police Department and FD to a lesser extent, but the police department has access to all the school buildings. We have the abilities to get in. And once we're inside the schools, we have access to get inside rooms. Again, nothing's 100%, but these are things that we currently have in our possession that we don't have to wait to get from somebody else. And again, I am stating stuff that I cannot take credit for. This was things that were in place prior to my arrival. One other important piece of equipment that was purchased by the town somewhere around 2017 or 18 is truck 13. Within that vehicle, it's self-contained. We have mechanical spreaders that can get inside doors, halogen tools. The town has spent money, and the police department has spent money to send officers from our ESU team for training on on explosive breaching. So we have officers that can use explosives to get inside doors if we had to contain breaches with minimal damage just to get the door open. That's what this town has invested in many, many years ago. And it was my obligation coming in here to make sure we continue that with my team of AC Terra and AC Rickabat and many, many others from ESU, Emergency Support Unit. It's also very important to understand that, West Hartford was, if not, and Bob, you can help me on this, if not the first, I believe we were the first, one of the first to implement some type of ESU or SWAT element back in 1940 something. They had a utility truck that they used way back when. That's evolved, over the years. Our communication with the school department is top notch, especially Eric Dempsey, the superintendent's office. We have good communication, but especially with Eric Dempsey, director of security. We're always communicating. When I say we, not necessarily me, but our personnel and Eric, when these things happen, we talk. Hey, what can we learn from here? Some do's and some don'ts. I'm not going on a limb here, and I'm not talking disparaging about what happened in Uvalde, because that's still an ongoing investigation. More information is coming out, but I will guarantee you this: we will not be standing in the hallway for an hour. You've heard me talk about this ad nauseum prior to this incident, other incidents. It's not going to happen. We reiterated that message, yours truly and others, at roll calls since that shooting. And we've told people, if you're not going to go in, just give us your badge right now. We'll hire somebody else. It's just that simple. We're not trying to be slaughtered. We all have families. We're trying to live. But doggone it, we have a gun, we have a badge, we have shields, we have a whole bunch of equipment, and those teachers and those kids have nothing. They're hiding and calling for help while people are trying to figure crap out. Ain't happening. And God forbid if it does, they can get another job because they're going to be done. So we are prepared. Again, we hope we never have to do that. We do have ballistic shields. I'm not going to tell the rating, but we have some shields that can withstand a rifle shot. So we do have that, and we have other shields too. So there's a lot of good things that we are doing correctly. And I hope we train, and never have to use it. But we're ready. And more importantly, we'll make sure our personnel are ready mentally. That's where the challenge really starts. You can train, but your head isn't there, and those bullets start flying, and you start worried about self-preservation as opposed to public preservation, and those kids, well, that's a problem. So, I'm sorry, one last thing. We also have camera access to all of the schools in the town, in the police department. And we also have, in our supervisor vehicles, we have iPads that can also have floor plans involved and gives us camera access too if we have to run a situation. So West Hartford, kudos to you. We're not satisfied or complacent. We continue to push forward to get more equipment, which we're doing right now, but we're in a really good place. Madam Chair, I hope I didn't ramble too much, but that concludes my report. Thank you. I'll entertain any questions or the assistant chiefs if they want to chime in.
Thank you, Chief Riddick. I really appreciate that report and that educational piece and presentation. Before I ask my questions, I want to find out if Councilor Cortez or anybody else has any questions.
You, Madam Mayor. So, Chief, I just want to say, give a heartfelt thank you for you and all the officers that were out last week at all the schools. The show of the presence of the police department was much appreciated, by me as a parent, and I am thankful that I get to see a little bit behind the scenes of what goes on. And like you mentioned, there's cameras, there's so much stuff that we have available. And again, as a parent, I don't think it's an easy task to get into the school. So that, my hats off to the director of security. He's done a great job over the years. I think right after Sandy Hook, they gave him kind of a blank check. He put something in place, but then, there's a cost. So he had to trim down, what he was using in place, but I think he did a good job. I think there's stuff in place that that will work. Of course, you can use more, but we don't have a blank check. So I think with what we have and what you guys have done over the years is amazing, and I appreciate that. My one question is the new cameras that we have in place throughout the town. I think it was 13. Did that study start yet? I've seen a few of them around.
Yes, thank you, Counselor. First, that's a trial basis. We have not selected a vendor, so just as we did with our body cams, we had various vendors to pick the best product. We are in the process of doing that right now. So they are in place. I'm not sure how many days we have left in the trial period. We're also in the process of identifying 2 to 3 other vendors so we can hit the ground running right after this. And the payback has been phenomenal on these cameras. There have been some concerns regarding privacy issues and other issues. That's not what this is about. These are not red light cameras at all. These are done for amber alerts, silver alerts, wanted people, burglaries, robberies, stolen motor vehicles, and having that information and the alerts that put back towards us. We can now put units in the area, unmarked units if we have to, and follow cars without them even knowing. And then when they park somewhere and they get out, we can jump them. When I say jump them, jump out on them and secure the arrest and go forward like that with minimal force and without getting engaged in pursuits and the like. So it's really been phenomenal. So thank you for that. And also thank you, I forgot to acknowledge that after this shooting in Uvalde, we did put police officers and detectives at every single public school in the town and for the rest of that last week.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Counselor Cortez and Chief Riddick. Anybody else have any questions? Town Manager.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Rick Ledwith, Acting Town Manager. I don't have any questions. I just wanted to kind of piggyback and echo some of the things that the chief had said. And I think, Madam Chair, you and I both have a different perspective, an aligned perspective, but we also come at this from being school employees. So you were the chair of the Board of Education when we committed millions of dollars of capital improvement to secure all 16 of our schools. So that we've committed millions of dollars over the last 10 years in each of our schools to make them safer. And we've also, being on the school side as well, as the former director of HR and the former board chair, we truly understand and appreciate that partnership that we have with our police department, which we worked hand in hand and we continue to work hand in hand. So that communication that happens between our leadership team on the school side, our security director, Eric Dempsey, who you've heard mentioned, they speak multiple times a day. So there is that perfect alignment of communication that occurs between both the schools and our police department, which is, exceptional here in West Hartford. And I know makes us a safer district in the event that something were to happen. The other thing I wanted to mention, in addition, we have school resource officers in our high schools. We have community resource officers who are assigned to each of our schools outside of the high schools as well. And as most folks are aware, we also have security officers in each of our schools as well. And I would add that many of our security officers, almost a majority of our security officers right now are retired West Hartford police officers who have that relationship as well with our PD, as well as with us, and understand the makeup of each of our schools and are there to assist in the event of an emergency as well. So just some things that I just wanted to add to the chief's comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ledwith. And I would just like to add, again, thank you, Chief Riddick. A couple of things for me. So I was fortunate enough to observe the drill at KP. And wow, and I'm not giving anything away, but I am very, 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 very impressed with our entire team public safety, our PD, our fire department, even the collaboration of other law enforcement in and around the area. And so I have no hesitation whatsoever. I know because of the recent tragic events, many people are on heightened alert and have a lot of questions. But because I was a board member, because I was board chair, I'm now a council member, I've had children in the school, I have a vantage point from all angles. And as Mr. Ledwith said, I was on that board when we installed those man traps, when we invested. I was on that board and I was a parent when I know what the security is about. You know, I know we see a lot of things may slip through the crack, but really I am proud to say that there's continuous assessment and there's continuous evaluation. So there's very little that's going to slip through. And if it does, somebody is going to catch it. And I'm also impressed with our students because our students have these relationships with our school resource officers, with our community resource officers. They're present in their lives. They participate at their activities. They show up. So it's not just this authoritarian type of relation that they form with the students. So there's some trust there. So anytime there's any type of incident, the students know how to react. And not only that, but they inform parents and guardians so that we're all in the know and we all have confidence that our kids are safe and that the right thing is going to be done. And as Chief Riddick said, no one is going to be sitting around for 10 minutes, let alone almost an hour. I know that they're going to react. And not only that, but I know that they've received the training and they receive ongoing training. And like he said, if somebody's not stepping up to the plate, then other measures are taken. So we don't even have to worry about that piece. But I just want to continuously commend because we always talk about training and ongoing training. And I know when you're part of that training, you may think, oh, here we go again. Here we go again. But you know what? The here we go again is proper and important because, as you said, we never know when something's going to happen, whether it's Mother Nature or some person who is just going to some tragic event like we witnessed, you know, earlier this month. We don't know what make people tick. And so that's why we always have to stay prepared. When you stay prepared, you don't have to get prepared because you're already there and you already know what to do. And again, the men and women in blue and our men and women in red and white, I am just, you know, just proud to be part of this team and to live in this town. And that's why I chose this town and not only chose, but wanted to participate in getting things done. It's easy to stand on the sidelines and complain and point fingers. But when you jump in and you're an active participant, it's a whole nother ball game. So again, I just want to thank everybody for what they do because this is a constant reminder of why we do what we do. We want our children to be safe. We want our elderly residents to be safe. We don't want anyone to be taken advantage of. And we want to be able to enjoy the freedoms that so many people before us have lost their life in order for us to have these free, whatever it is that we enjoy. So again, you know, I know it's difficult sometimes when you get up in the morning, especially I commend you when you have all of that equipment on, Chief Priest, you and your team, and Chief Riddick, you and your team. I know when it's hot in the summer months, you can't take off that equipment and put on your wife beater. You have to put on that formal uniform and you have to represent and you have to come correct each and every time to perform your job as it's expected. So thank you again for your leadership. Thank you again for choosing this profession. And thank you again for being passionate about what you do each and every day. So I guess there really wasn't a question in there, just a comment. Comments, plural.
Well, we'll say thank you. I also really quick, I don't want to leave out Assistant Chief Tara. The amount of work that he does behind the scenes, his organizational skills, his intellect, his ability to do the research to help us out. I am blessed to have probably, I'm not going to say the best, but there's no assistant chief team better than what I have. We got a good thing going right now, and I'm just very, very pleased. And the partnership we have with the FD, we did that training before Chief Priest and Chief O'Callahan. We were dealing with the rescue task force, which is secreting an element of the fire department with the PD. We provide cover and protection for them as we, cover part of the school or whatever the area is, and we cover the EMS personnel with the FD to get them inside of paramedics to the building to render aid. And we learned a lot of lessons learned during that training, but the courage of the members of the fire department who wanted to do this, because everyone doesn't want to do that, to go in that situation. So I commend the FD for that too. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks again to all of you, really. All right. So that brings us to any future agenda items. Councilor Cortez, I know it's just you and I in terms of the committee members, but can you think of any future agenda items you would like to put on the agenda for our next meeting?
I think the only thing is, keeping communications with our legislators, just of what stuff that's going to be upcoming, for their next session, so instead of trying to do it at the same time, be a step ahead of them. Yeah, that's the only thing that's been coming to mind as of lately, because I think last time around it's like, we could comment on what was there, but there was no like input, I guess.
Okay, absolutely. Some stronger collaboration.
Yes.
Absolutely. We can reach out and make something happen. Yep. All right. Perhaps even schedule a meeting. Okay. All right. So if there aren't any other questions or any other comments, we can go to adjournment. And I thank everybody, and I wish everybody a safe and healthy rest of the week and a great weekend. Thank you and take care, everyone.
Thank you.